All I want to say though is like a nice quality of life thing that they added in this game was the text speed. Because
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my god, like anytime you use a spell and you gotta tell me what it does every single time with like the
My-
slow scrolling text, I was like, dude, come on, this cannot be how it is. But then you can change the text speed where it's just like instant where you go boop 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 and done. Like you can just mash through the whole thing in like 1 second. I was like,
You might
thank
say with
I
God.
didn't know about that. I just used the fast forward button every time I selected a spell on my emulator. Welcome to the Cable Club. We're a retro video gaming podcast where three guys have an unexpected thing occur, and we're linking up to talk about the games you love and rank them. This is episode number 34. We're your hosts. I'm Steve,
I'm Dan.
And I'm Don.
and we're here with Lycanthia from the Discord. Say hi, Lycanthia, or would you prefer your real name?
No, you guys can call me Eric. How's it going? Good to be here.
We've seen him before. He was on the Hades episode.
If that even is your
Oh.
real name.
I've been called a lot of things, some good, some bad.
Good to have you back, Eric.
Good to be back. It's been a while.
It has. We haven't done an episode together. I was absent for that one.
Yeah, so was I.
Well, anyway, moving forward. This week's episode is our 7th League episode of the year, and the entry is Actraiser. So get ready to upload data from us to you. But first, let's set the mood. It's a Saturday morning like every other Saturday morning. You've just finished eating some Cap'n Crunch and watching a bunch of your favorite Saturday morning cartoons. Gargoyles being one of them. You start digging through all of your SNES games after, and they're all in this big box. If only you knew how important these games were to becoming in your life in all facets, you probably would have taken better care of them. As you dig through the box, you pass up games that you've beaten what feels like a million times. Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario World, Aladdin, Super Castlevania 4, all those great titles. And finally, near the bottom of your box, you find a game that you couldn't even remember receiving. It was probably in a collection consolidation of a cousin's or uncle's or something like that. Being bored and looking for something new and fun to do on a Saturday was pretty normal for you. God knows your older brother was probably out playing some kind of sports game and you couldn't care any less about it. You wanted to experience adventure and magic. At first, you're greeted to some strange text-based menu and you feel a little bit lost. But shortly after, you discover the option that says, Fight Monsters. You think to yourself, yes please, and the game thrusts you into an exciting forest with upbeat music. You're a hero emerging from a stone statue, just like in Gargoyles. This was going to be a Saturday morning you were looking for. Let's fight monsters.
I was wondering if you were going to link that back to Gargoyles, or if you just picked Gargoyles coincidentally, because the heroes are statues and then turn into... Yeah.
Gargoyles was such a fun show.
Very
Yeah, it
solid
was.
reference.
That's a throwback.
If I ever find the time, I want to go back and revisit it, because supposedly there's a bunch of like adult-themed stuff in there that just went over my head as a kid.
Oh,
really?
yeah, dude. All that stuff had so much like innuendo that kids just didn't even... I mean, you see it in Disney movies too.
True. What would happen if Disney ruled the world?
Well, sometimes, you had to throw a couple things in there for the grown-ups because, they had to bring, the kids are dragging them out to the movie theater or whatever,
Like the villain dying horribly with fire. It's quality entertainment for me. Take that. All right, so I've got some announcements. they're kind of the same old announcements we've been talking about for a few weeks. But in case you haven't heard them yet, the website is up and running. Go over to the www.cableclub.com on the internets and check out our website over there. From there, you can check out league standings, look at the profiles of our guests on there, look at our entire episode backlog. This is episode 34, but we got some bonus episodes thrown in there, roughly at 40 episodes now. If you just can't get enough, listen to the early ones last. Except for Mega Man X7. Go listen to that one pretty early. That's a good episode, wouldn't you guys say?
It's my favorite one. Not.
It's the most emotional one for me. And then I also want to mention that our league is, of course, underway. This is episode 8 of the league of 25. We're going to play 25 games this year, and we're going to sort them into leagues. And then we're somehow going to award winners at the end of the year and give away trophies that we just announced over in our Discord. They are beauteous golden cartridges with our logos on them and mysteries inside. And they will be given to 5 league winners.
They really did turn out great.
As an outside viewer, they are gorgeous.
All credit to the Etsy store that made them gold. I don't know how they did it, but they're great.
Good stuff.
All right, Dan, your turn. Question of the week.
Alrighty. Question of the week. So the question comes from Alpha Data. What is your favorite weapon in any game? So guess first, if Eric wants to take it.
Yeah, I had to think about this one a lot. I play some very weird games, obviously, as you can tell by my game choices, but I couldn't think of any standout weapons that were my favorite to use. The only one that I kept coming back to was from a game called Jet Force Gemini on the N64. They have a handheld tri-rocket launcher. So, like, all the power destruction that you would usually get in, like, a rocket launcher in, like, regular shooter games, but you can run and gun with it, and there's 3 rockets. And to add on to that, there was a multiplayer mode that was explosives only. So you got, like, tri-rocket launchers, cluster bombs, grenades. So it was just like, okay, I find a tri-rocket launcher. I'm just going to run and shoot everything and watch bodies just explode.
You gotta love the power trip aspect of this.
Absolutely.
I actually had a hard time narrowing down mine, so I'm going to give a couple of runner-ups first. One is just straight up fists. I love monks in Final Fantasy or like RPGs in general, like characters that use their fists to like ridiculous proficiency. I say the monk in Final Fantasy because in many of the titles they're just murder machines. Like,
Yeah.
Even though they don't require any upkeep, like you don't have to buy weapons for them. And even in some games, it's advantageous not to even dress them because they
It
get
makes
more
me
attack
think
for
of
not wearing gear.
Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah.
If they
me too.
have a weapon, they will do more damage on like regular hits. But if they don't have a weapon, they hit more times.
Yeah.
So like you'll have the weapon, you'll hit 6 times and it'll do, let's just say 500 damage. But if you take the weapons off, you'll hit 12 times, your attack's lower, but you'll deal 1,000 damage because
Yeah,
you hit
your
twice
little
as much.
warriors over there hitting for 200 at this point in the game. Your monks critting for $2,000. So that's one. And then the other one is the holy hand grenade from Worms. Would be
yeah,
God, I remember
so
that.
you can forget that.
Was that the one where it explodes? It goes, oh.
Yeah, it is.
Hallelujah, and then blows up, and it sends
Oh,
everybody
great.
flying. It has the biggest launch distance and the biggest blast radius, so that's fun. And then my actual favorite weapon comes from the Ratchet and Clank series, which has a lot of really good ones, like the Chickenator and little like remote control robots that explode that are fun. But it is a weapon from the 3rd game called the Suck Cannon, and it upgrades to the Vortex Cannon later on. And what it does is it doesn't use ammunition like the other weapons, but it lets you suck up minor enemies and use them as ammunition against everything else. And it deals a lot of damage for being an early. You get it like super early, and it just completely outstrips using melee because it has no ammunition. You can even suck up like crates and stuff with it if you don't have minor enemies to use. So it's a very fun weapon.
It sounds like they put a trigger on Kirby.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. It's a Kirby gun. What you got, Steve?
So I had kind of a tough time with this one, but so I think I had a joke one that I was thinking about in Sonic and Knuckles, they have Robotnik's giant cannon. The only reason I like it is because of the noise it makes. It was like whip, 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 and it shoots a giant laser beam. And I wish I could wield it, but you can't. Then my second thing that I was thinking of was also just for funny, playing Silent Hill 2 and having the hammer.
The hammer of destruction.
It was so fun.
When melee
but-
attacks become broken in that game.
Yeah, it's just so much fun beating up monsters from another dimension with a hammer.
It's
But,
so good.
Then it made me think of I don't remember which Halo game it was, but you can get a gravity hammer, and it's a two-handed hammer, and when you hit people with it, they go flying because like the gravity's taken out from them. And that was one of the most fun weapons.
Dude, like the rag doll, if it actually lands like the killing blow.
Yeah.
Oh man.
They go boom, they fly across the screen.
Good stuff. All right, so for me, like again, I had a hard time with this question too because there's just so many good weapons out there. So I had a couple answers. First one's from like the older Dooms. Do you guys remember the super shotgun, like the double barrel shotgun? It was just so good.
Can add it to my growing list of gaming sins that have never played a Doom game.
It's just such like a dopamine hit. Like when you go up to a demon at like point blank and shoot, and like you just ends up falling over it, even though if like this demon's like huge and takes like a bunch of hits, but just gets one-shotted because of all the bullets, because of the spread, just all hit them because you were just so close. That and any kind of Magnum from the Resident Evil series is just so good because it's like the boss killer.
Yeah, taking out Gigante with the Magnum.
You have like a feeling like a boss is coming out, you'll pull that out of the storage, and then you just, or even if like you need to clear a room, it's just so good. It just like one shots anything, and then like bosses only take like a couple hits. And then my last answer, obviously I can't forget the X-Buster. Just love it. I'll do a lot of Mega Man X runs with just the X-Buster because I just love the charging and shooting, and had to put it on the list.
What do we say around here, guys?
ABC.
Always be charging.
I'll be honest, there's times I'm playing Mega Man X and I forget that I have special weapons, so I can't argue that.
Yeah, it's so good. The charging is just so good.
I think it's more fun to play that game with just the Buster. I like dodging the bosses, and if it's one of the titles where they get hits done by their weakness, it's kind of a turn off.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so that was our answers. Some answers from our community. Jump cancel, the sheep bomb in Worms.
My man, he's the one that made me think of the holy hand grenade because I wasn't even thinking there. I saw his answer and I was like, oh my god, there's so many good weapons in Worms.
I'm trying to remember that. I can't remember it.
So the sheep, you throw it, and then it gallops the way you would envision a sheep to gallop, and then if you hit a button, it's a remote detonated sheep, and it just blows up.
Please tell me it goes bah when it blows up.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it goes bah while it's galloping around, but after it blows up, it doesn't bah anymore now.
Yeah. I wonder if he prefers the regular sheep bomb to the super sheep.
Oh, that's right, the super sheep that flies around like a guided missile.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so he's a normal sheep. You hit the button, and then he shoots up in the air, and he has a little cape, and you can fly him around until he hits something and impacts it.
Good stuff.
Forgot about the super sheep. Core memory unlocked.
All right, Happiny coming in with a few answers here. He says the shotgun in Halo 3. Hey man, I love the shotgun in Doom, so I know the feeling.
Kind of a shotgun guy myself. You
Yeah,
guys?
I like shotgun in Gears of War.
Yeah. Then proximity mines and GoldenEye. Oh, those ones were great. I know you guys haven't really played GoldenEye, but I remember playing that with my uncle, and he was so like sweaty with this game. Like he would place like proximity mines on the spawn points, so when you would die, you would spawn in, die because it was a proximity mine on that spawn point. You die again, and literally you would just constantly die because you just knew where all the spawn points were. Oh, those were the days.
Disgusting.
And
then his last one was ladder in WWF SmackDown 2. Ladders, man.
What's your guys' overall experience with the that's one of the N64 games, right? WWF SmackDown 2?
I'm not sure.
I know they have like Attitude and Mayhem, but I don't know if SmackDown 2 is on the 64.
Anyway, what's your guys' experience with wrestling games in general?
Very little.
I had
Extremely
attitude
little.
growing up, and I had a friend that really liked wrestling, so we played wrestling games. But I can't say that I played them a lot by myself. So
Yeah, I'm not a wrestling person. I think I played one that my cousin owned, and it was interesting because it had like a creator wrestler, but not my cup of tea.
I played very little of them, but over a friend's house, and I remember the ladder. The ladder is a lot of fun. That's a great weapon. You're like, chairs? No, give me the ladder. As soon as it comes down, and you could like open it and climb up on it and dive off of it
They're very
too.
versatile.
Yeah, no, it's
It's
excellent.
got the range.
No,
You
it's
can jump off it.
a lot of fun.
it's like
All
a
right.
Jackie Chan movie where he uses the ladder as a as a weapon.
All right. Now we got Lady Lishi, banana peels, and Mario Kart.
It's the
That's
worst
like a
weapon in the whole game.
staple though in those games.
She must be good at it because you get the most banana peels when you're in first. So you don't get a lot of fun toys when you're in first. So I guess objectively it's okay.
All right. And then the last answer I have here is from Hux from Super Smash Brothers, the home run bat.
Say it.
I can't.
Home run bat.
I
It's
can't
the
argue there.
sound. It's the sound when it connects. That's what does it.
Insta KO.
The funny part is like when you checkmate someone in Smash, like you know they're coming in and they're out of jumps, and you start swinging it, and like they see it coming but they can't avoid it.
Yeah, it's
Or
almost
you
it's in
read
slow
the
motion.
roll.
There's that no moment.
Yeah, when you read the roll and you time it just right.
You just close your eyes and you're just expecting the ping.
This is unexpected. Nobody has anything to say to us. Are you guys ready to talk about Actraiser?
Let's do it.
Ready.
Actraiser. Oh boy. Where do I start with this one? This was one of the first games that I got with my Super Nintendo, which is appropriate because it was released in 1991 in the United States, late 1991.
Yeah,
Um,
November.
But I don't think I got a hold of it until like 94, 95, because, can't give a 1-year-old a game about, destroying monsters and God.
God.
But Actraiser was published by Enix of modern-day Square Enix fame. This was pre-merger, and it was developed by a studio named Quintet, which went on to develop other, I guess, niche or like cult classic games might be the best way to describe them. They're games you've heard of probably in passing, but never hit the popular title. Things like Soul Blazer, Terranigma, Robotrek, if you like that group. And they also helped with like one of their latest things they helped with was Shenmue on Dreamcast. So like all those sleeper hits, really. But Actraiser, yeah, depends on who you ask. But Actraiser was their first title that they ever developed, and it kind of shows. It's a definite, I'd call it an experiment in gaming, because the way that I see it is up until this point you had pretty defined categories. You had your platformers like Mario, you had your RPGs like Final Fantasy, you had your simulation games like SimCity. But Quintet decided to say, hey, let's make Actraiser and mash a bunch of categories into one game. So the game itself is divided up into 6 areas where you play the master, or the soul of the master, who inhabits a stone statue, and his angel helper. Each area is divided into an action platformer stage, which usually has some pretty awesome music and good side-scrolling action platformer with sword slashes, good fun. And then you're treated to a city-building simulation stage with the Angel Helper, which is kind of what put Actraiser into its own little category. So you build the town and you progress in like an RPG fashion by gaining levels and more powers through this simulation stage rather than actually fighting the monsters to get experience points. and then each area is closed out with a second side-scrolling platformer with a boss. All of this is to beat the evil demon Tanzra, or if you play the non-translated version, Satan. Where you
Just
face
straight up Satan.
it's just straight Satan.
Yeah.
But everything culminates in the final area called Deathheim, where you do like a master boss rush of all the Act 2 bosses that you fought up until then, and then you face Tanzra himself to save the world.
It's the fact that this game works at all, being the mishmash of things it is, I think is a miracle.
Yeah.
And I also like that you play as like God, like capital G, capital O, capital D, Old Testament God. Like you have this nice little angel, he's flying around killing monsters, making nice things happen for people, and then you can just burn down all of their houses and kill all of their relatives, and they still have to love you because that's the way that it works.
Earthquake, man.
Dude,
And,
yeah,
and
that
my
wipes the whole
headcanon
map.
is that you go and kill the god that was already in that land, and you just become the new god. So you're just like crusade style spreading Christianity across the land. That's kind of how I picture this game.
Well,
Yeah.
if you're as potent as the master is, then most couldn't deny you.
The Master and Tanzra got into a giant fight, and the Master had to go to sleep. And during that time, Tanzra had destroyed the entire population. So I don't think it's like you're replacing him. It's just more that you're like you woke up and you came back.
Well, I think I read that the master got defeated by the generals, which is the boss rush, and in his weakened state, he had to retreat and rest. And like I don't know, 15 years or whatever passes, and Tanzra gains control of all of the regions.
That sounds accurate. Yeah.
And you come
Details
back
escape me.
being having to get all of your powers back
By repopulating the world.
with people instead of monsters.
So this is one of those, like, you know, when you first start playing it, it feels like. So I didn't know that this game was from 1990/1991 when I first turned it on. I thought it was a little bit later in the SNES life. So I was taken aback that the controls are really simple. But I guess it makes sense now that I know it's that early. But it's one of those SNES games that doesn't make full use of that controller. Like there was like a host of SNES games that just forgot that there was 4 face buttons and 2 shoulder buttons and just don't use half the buttons of that controller. And this is kind of one of them, interestingly enough. But they get a lot done with those 2 buttons.
One for jump, one for attack, one for magic.
Yeah, it's like ABC. Was there a Genesis port of this game? I feel like this
No,
has got Genesis
surprisingly
written all
not.
over it. It's interesting. This game's pretty metal. I feel like it should have landed on the Genesis.
It does kind of feel like a Genesis style game. Even
It really- yeah, it
graphics-wise,
does.
it's right up the Genesis alley. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised it wasn't released for Genesis. But no, this was a Super Nintendo only up until re-releases on like Wii U Virtual Console, and I think they made like a mobile port, and they actually did a complete remaster, like on modern consoles.
Yeah, I think one of the people in our Discord said he got it for his like Wii shop or something like that. Like
Yeah.
fairly, you know, which would have been fairly recently in my lifetime, but maybe not for some of our listeners. But just feels like yesterday. I'm getting old. I don't know. What do you guys think of the visuals?
I think it looks fine. Like the 2D part of it looks great. You know, the enemies look good. The spells that you cast look great. I love Aura, by the way. I don't know if you guys ever used that one.
So it's kind of interesting because you play the side scrolling part, you know, as like your intro to the game, and it kind of feels a lot like Castlevania maybe would be. I don't know. I keep coming back to Castlevania on it. Maybe it's because the music in that first level is
Fillmore
really good.
slaps.
Yeah, Fillmore.
It's unfortunate that that's the end of it.
I know. It was such a strong start.
Yeah.
The music just didn't land. The first place Fillmore had such a cool song, and then like they reused another song for like, you know, if there were 10 levels, like 8 of them have this one track.
Well,
and it's not as
Bloodpool
good as
starts
Fillmore.
off really good. It's like and then it gets all Looney Tunes.
But it fits really well when you start sprinting in that level, that beginning of the song. The guy comes down and then just starts doing it. I'm like, oh, you're in trouble now.
I am God.
What were you doing while I was away?
Chase you down, smack you with a sword.
But then you go from, so this is like where the game breaks into its own, right? So you beat the first boss, pretty standard fare, right? Um, and then you get to this completely different thing, which is like this sim mode, and almost like a shmup a little bit, right? Because you're playing as the angel. So you're playing as the angel, and you're flying overhead, and you're calling it a sim is putting an image in people's heads that I don't think is quite there. Eric, you want to talk about the differences between something like this and like maybe like a Sim City or like a, I'm trying to think of another sim like Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Uh, I mean, if I played more actual, like just straight sim games, it would be easier. But the simulation stage that's actually how they describe it in the instruction booklet is simulation. But it's like you don't give too much direction. Basically, you tell the townspeople, "Hey, build here in this direction, clear out these monster layers that are infecting your land." All the while, you have powers of miracles like lightning and rainstorms and sun, and the aforementioned earthquake once you get strong enough. Um, and then the town mostly takes care of itself up until they need something unexpected. Uh,
Yeah, so you kind of play like the hand that guides, basically. You're like, buildeth this way, villagers, and then they will buildeth that way. But they also give you hints too. They're like, oh no, we can't build it that way because it's a forest. And they're like, you got a problem? You go and you lightning strike whatever the problem is, and it blows up, and then they can build there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like slightly, not, I wouldn't say puzzle solving, but it's like you have to use the right ability for the right area, and you clear up the land and make it hospitable
Yeah,
for
like
the
the Sims
settlers.
isn't anything crazy. It's pretty bare bones if you really think about it. Like you guys say, you get like a direction of building, that's where they'll build, and then you take out the monsters, and they might have like a quest for you to do, like, oh, you got to save this kid, because he's trying to figure out why the pool turned the lake turned red. And but like other than that, like each sim probably takes up to like, I don't know, what would you say, like 30 minutes before you're actually fighting the boss of the area, if
Maybe
that.
even less.
Yeah.
yeah, 30 minutes maybe if you're doing everything and getting every single corner. If you're just like rushing through it, get the monster layers, get everything done, it can be like 15.
Yeah. So I actually ran into this problem. I don't know if you guys did. So I didn't really find like a use for Earthquake too much, but I remember when I first could cast it because it costs like a bunch to use. It like demolished like my whole town, and I had like all the houses and stuff built. But the problem was, it's like they would only build up to like a certain point, and then they would stop. And I don't know why they would stop after that, because I remember I had the whole town built, and for some reason they after I earthquake they'd only build like half of it, and then they just wouldn't build anymore. I don't know if that's just like if
So
Eric knows
I
anything about that.
I can absolutely nerd out about that if you like.
Yeah, no, he's the master of these
Yeah.
like hidden mechanics that are in this game.
Yeah. So to explain a little bit how to optimize your towns, so to speak. So there's a few factors that go into what can be in your town. Um, the first one is your total population for that town. Each town has a maximum amount of people that it can have, and that is based on your total score from your platforming stages.
And it's
Oh, so
it's
essentially I
important.
suck then.
So
Well, that's only part of it.
it's important because having a population levels you up and gets you to the max skills, just so that we're all on the same page here.
Yeah,
That's why you want this.
Yeah, your level is based on your total max population, which caps out at like 4,500 or something like that, 4,600. Um, that's throughout the 6 lands that you rescue. So your score is affecting your total population for that land. The other thing that it affects it is sprite limits, believe it or not. So each area is only allowed so many sprites, or units in this case. So when your town builds a field, that counts for so many units. A house is so many units, or a bridge in certain towns, which can screw you over for max population, as I found out. And then it just becomes a matter of optimization. So level 1 houses hold 4 people in it. Level 2 houses hold 6. Level 3 holds 8. Well, if you have a whole bunch of level 1 houses that are only holding 4 people, that's what Earthquake is for. Because it'll blow up or destroy all your level 1 and level 2 houses. Level 3 houses are earthquake proof.
Oh.
So they will then replace those level 1 and level 2s with level 3 houses that now hold more people.
And are earthquake proof.
And are earthquake proof.
So
They got wise to you.
So did I essentially max out the map on the population? They were just all level 3 houses, and that's why they didn't build out further?
Most likely, yeah. If you had empty space, it was because your population is maxed. And the game is nice. There is a menu that you can check that. It'll say if population is maxed out or if it's stopped because of some event that's happening in that area.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had like zero issue with the menu. I thought the menu was pretty good. I don't know if you all kind of feel the same. You know, it's a controller sim. It's not like you're playing it on a PC, right? So already it's kind of at a disadvantage. But I think they did a good job for what they had. And then like I don't know, Dan, if you upgraded the fields. So like
With the
part
Wii?
of the game, yeah, because they make the fields better. So part of the game is like trade, basically, like trading ideas and products from place to place. Like you'll start to build up in the Arctic area, for instance, and then there will be a point where they just stop and they're like, yeah, it's too cold to continue. And it turns out you build up another area that raises sheep and they give you some wool. And there's like a whole unexpected offering system that the people like basically give you what they reap from settling the land, whether it's magical items or things like wheat or skills on how to build bridges or whatever.
Yeah,
And
some
you
of those
take
are
these-
mandatory, I think,
Yeah,
because you can't progress the town without it. Like the fleece is one of them. I'm not sure if wheat was. I think some are just straight up optional.
No, like bridges, wheat, and I think those are the two main ones that are like.
I know
locked for
there's like
story.
you needed some type of herb to like cure a plague for one of the towns.
yeah, but only after though. So I guess you didn't technically have to do it if you didn't want to. But
Yeah,
if you
that's like
waited-
one of the optional ones.
Yeah, you max your population, help max your population that way too.
Can't
Or I
get
don't
your
know.
aura spell without the herb, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh, so good. I want to
So,
talk
like-
about that eventually.
Yeah. Tell us about the spells, Eric.
Yeah, so as you're doing these simulation stages, there are 4 magical spells that you can find, mostly from hints of your population whenever they have something unexpected to tell you. The first one being in the very first town of Fillmore, you just get a very basic fireball, which is, it shoots across horizontally, but it can do like 4 to 5 damage if you hit something well. But then they just get better from there. Blood Pool gives you Magical Stardust, which is just the most busted spell. Just rains down
Meteor
a
rain?
meteor
Yeah,
rain,
yeah.
basically. Yeah, it just rains. I don't know the exact count of projectiles, but it just rains them in from the right hand side. And if your RNG is good, you can just demolish a boss in 2 hits, in like 2
It
casts.
says countless stars, but really it's not that many. Like
Yeah.
maybe
If
the
I had to
people of this land
count-
can't count because they all just came back. But I think it's like 17.
If I had to average it, it's somewhere between 15 to 20. Because
Yeah.
you get some really good casts and some not so great casts, and it also depends on where on the screen it starts.
I thought Aura was just straight up better than the star one.
For general boss fights, most people like Aura because it's a close range spell that just has orbs of light circle you and just does massive damage to anything that's nearby. Plus the hit stun lag just makes it hit more, which is fantastic.
Yeah, bosses don't have a lot of iframes when they get
Yeah,
hit in this
I
game.
was two-shotting bosses with that spell. Oh god, it was so good.
Yeah.
I didn't try out the last spell, so I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, the last spell is Magical Light, which you get the very end of the 6th suggested area, because you can actually do the worlds almost in any order, at least the platforming stages. But the Magical Light spell is generally considered useless.
Oh, is it? What does it
Yeah.
do?
Pretty garbage. It's
What
just
it
a
does
screen
is
clear.
it puts up 2 pillars to the left and right of you, and it expands to the edges of the screen. And it basically does like 1 or 2 hits as it goes by.
So is it basically just a better fireball?
It's great
I think the
for
fireball's better.
Oh yeah.
it's good for like all screen wipe mob clears, horrible and useless for bosses, which is ironic because you get it like right before the boss rush.
New spell. No thanks.
Well, it's a good thing I
That's
kept Aura because I didn't even try. I got the spell. I just never tried it.
yeah. There's
Did
no
you use a
reason.
guide to get that? Because the steps that Eric took me through are like I never would have figured this out.
You also
No,
tried to do it in a weird ass order.
You just have to do like the quests on the map. I think, don't you? That's all I was doing. I didn't look up a guide at once for this game.
No. You gotta get like a stone tablet, and you gotta like bring it somewhere.
I got the stone tablet and I knew where it went because the shape of the thing is the shape of the island.
I guess you're smarter
Okay,
than I am.
the one part that I almost got stuck on with that, I wasn't gonna look up a guide or anything because it felt like it was optional, but it tells you to like that they keep coming back and they couldn't find anything because the forest is too dense, and it was the type of tree that you can't use the thunder on. So
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what to do here because I was thundering the left side of it, and it wasn't doing anything. So I was just like, I don't know. So I moved on, but then I just for the hell of it, I just did the right side, and then one single tree disappeared, and I'm like, oh, and then sure enough, they came back with I don't even remember what it was, but they found something, and
That's where they
And-
find magical aura.
Yeah, Steve. How did you know to thunder the tree?
They said it was too dense.
Yeah, but you didn't miss. You hit the one spot the
did
right time.
the correct side the first try.
Oh, you got a
That's
50-50 shot.
so lucky.
But
I almost
also,
walked away from that completely. So I got lucky.
if you're also stuck with that, if you go back to the area where you got the stone tablet from, Casa Andorra, which is area 3, if you look at the geoglyph, there's a rock right where the tree would be.
That's right.
So that's kind of another hint of where they should be looking.
Oh,
So that's
I-
one of the things that I want to like segue into, if that's okay, is I
Yeah.
loved the exploration and the secrets that they put into the simulation stages. Because like all this intertwined like puzzles and like things you wouldn't think about doing give you so many extra power-ups and items as you're playing this game. So like you just described with just the magical aura spell, one is the hardest spell to find, but you have to beat level 3, get this random item that doesn't seem to do anything, which is the ancient tablet. You have to bring that to level 5, drop that on them, and then remember, oh, I have to go blow up the tree, and then, oh, cool, here's a magic spell for you. Nowhere do they tell you to do that.
You have to even know that the magic spell exists. Like the only reason I knew it exists because you played it with Danko Misty,
Yeah.
and she put a screenshot up of her file and it showed 4 spells. So I knew there was 4 spells going in, but I wouldn't have even known there was 4 spells if I like had played without seeing that. I didn't use a guide this week for that.
Yeah. I know when we first started playing the game, or when you first started playing the game for the 2 weeks, the first thing I told everyone is get a copy of the instruction manual. Because this was early 90s where they did not hold your hand at all. If you wanted to find the secrets, thankfully you didn't have to go out and buy Nintendo Power for this one. You just actually had to read the instruction booklet, because they give you details for each land that you go and do the simulation for and tell you how to find almost every secret.
very nice.
Yeah, so like hidden extra lives in Casa Andorra by using Earthquake before you clear the pyramid. You get an extra life in level 6 North Wall by lightning striking the shrine for no reason. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we hid something from you. Here's an extra life.
Yeah, I didn't do any of that.
Yeah,
All right,
neither did I.
so the life in the snow area I did find because they were slow building and I didn't understand why they were slow building, and I would just go talk to them to see what the problem was, and they would just keep telling me thank you for this beautiful land. So eventually I got fed up with them and started lightning striking the temple, and then they gave me the life.
Yeah, I had a few
Your
issues
god
with
is
that
not
too,
pleased.
where like they would just randomly stop building, and sometimes I just couldn't figure out what was happening. But sometimes like me just killing like enemies on the field for like 2 minutes, and they would just continue building again.
I'll get more into the hidden mechanics for that if you want.
Sure.
Yeah, enlighten us.
So tied in with the score to your max population, I think it's like every 100 points or every 200 points you get in score is equal to 1 population soul. And those souls are stored in the monster layers of that area. So as you destroy the monsters, you get souls which create your population so that they can build out further.
When a mommy soul and a daddy soul
Yeah.
love each other very much.
Yeah,
Because all
And
of the
kill a
people got
monster.
turned into monsters, and you are turning them back into people.
Yeah,
Right.
so that makes sense because, like, there would be times where, like, literally they just would not do anything, and I'm just like, all right, well, I guess I gotta kill this like floating skull. That's just, I didn't know what to do, but eventually
Dan's
they
got a
would start
big
back
stick.
up.
He's like, "Come on, do something."
Yeah, so in the simulation levels, there's like enemies too that do different annoying things. Like there's bats that like eat up your population, and then there's little devils that burn your fields so you can't keep growing. But the worst ones are easily the skulls.
The skulls,
and they can
100%.
attack. Yeah, they can attack the angel too. And if you run out of health as the angel, you're like on pause.
yeah,
Until
can
they
no
go
longer
rebuild.
attack.
Dude, they're
Yeah.
so fast too. Like, oh my
But
god.
they take a lot of hits too. It takes
Yeah.
like 8 hits from your angel to kill the skull, and if you leave it there long enough, I don't know if you guys found this out, but I found this out.
Oh, I did.
They earthquake and they kill everyone.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
brings it down to the 2 people born of lightning in your temple.
Even like the upgraded like bow and arrow, it takes more than 1 hit to kill one of those things.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
like
that's right.
3 at that point, if I
Yeah,
remember
it's
right.
crazy. They're OP as hell.
And they hit for like half your health. Like they clean your angel's little clock. And I'm saying angel here, but he's like, the baby kind.
He's one of those stereotypical
The
cherubs.
the
I think.
cherubs, yeah.
Yeah, with the little heart arrow.
Yeah.
Cupid is stupid. I don't like it. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yeah, so this game also actually had some like items that you could use on the maps too, like the bombs and whatnot that could just like screen clear. And then
Yeah, but then enemies just reappear like immediately.
You have wind though, and
Yeah.
wind does the same thing, except it doesn't kill the enemies, but that's okay.
Yeah, the items that the people find in the monster layers are very underwhelming. Certainly useful against the skulls when you get to the later levels. But really the bombs are there for like a momentary reprieve and to get like a minor burst to your population souls. But
I think the bow was easily the best one. Like it let me clear Cassandor a lot easier because you have to deal with 2 skulls spawning at the same time. It's
and it
just so
lasts a
many
long
hits.
time too.
Yeah, but it lets you drive up the population really fast by killing those skulls.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was there any other items besides the bow and the bomb that you could use outside?
not consumables. I mean, they had like
Okay.
one-off items like the magical skull or like the compass, which was a puzzle piece for.
Yeah, like the
Finding
quest
hidden
items. Yeah.
And then you had your wheat or rice.
So you're playing The Sims, and you're leveling up your character to play in the side-scrolling levels, right? So it's got kind of a little ARPG element to it. Is this like an early blueprint for mobile games? You know what I'm talking about? Like those crappy city builder mobile games with some other side piece type of content that you're like, oh, the point is build the city, and then you get to play more of the good content.
I don't want to go down this route of mobile.
I don't want to think about it like that. Please no.
Look, I'm not. Maybe these people quit making those games, and now they're the people that make the crappy mobile games. I don't know. But
I mean, that's a possibility. But like, I feel like at least this created its own niche of games before it developed into that kind of stuff.
yeah, I want to talk about the potential that's here with this formula. I know it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with this game. I don't know that it's going to change my opinion on the game itself ultimately, but man, like I love the idea of trading all those ideas across cities, and I wish that instead of just going from point A to point B, C, D, E, there was like some level of back and forth. Like maybe you got stuck at point A, your people couldn't do anything more, and there was just still like bats raiding them and stuff, but then you just had to move on to spot number 2, start helping those people out, and maybe they give you something to help back out spot A, or maybe there's side quests that happen, with more side-scrolling levels that let you get more like weapons and upgrades and stuff. Like
I almost thought you had to do that at first in this game because there was
that'd be sweet.
parts where I was getting stuck and they weren't building, and Eric explained to us that you had to kill souls or whatnot. But like, yeah, I would move on to like the next town because I thought maybe that's how it worked. But then I found out that you could literally just do one map at a time and then move on.
Or maybe like if monsters came to raid the town, you had to do like a side-scrolling stage to beat up a bunch of monsters and some kind of boss or something like that. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
It'd be
these
really
are all
interesting.
ideas that Actraiser 2 should have done.
I know.
And instead, they got rid of everything.
They probably got the most flack for it, though. Like they probably got the most flack for the sim part of the game,
They did.
which is why they got rid of it.
And then they went the safe route instead of just making it better. Like it doesn't have to be the Sims. I think what they did is fine. I just think they needed to, flip flop back and forth a little bit more. And also, I think some more upgrades. Like I think the magic is cool and upgrading the amount of times you can use the magic, but I'd say the magic more or less equates to screen clears. Basically, they're 4 different screen clears of different efficacy,
I
which
feel
is
like
fine.
equipment would have been nice too, like magic getting like
Yeah.
different swords and different armor, like that would actually show on your sprite. That would have
Like,
been
hey,
sweet.
master, we found a better sword, or we found a, like I just think stuff like that would have been neat, and I could have seen it in a sequel. Like, imagine if this got like 6 games all the way through the PS2 era, where we would be today. Like, I feel like it'd be sweet. It'd be its own thing.
Yeah, and then new
no.
games could have like come up too because of it. If it was the idea was good enough.
Yeah, there's definitely
Instead, we got
games.
Dark Cloud.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's games that definitely built off of this formula, like Dark Cloud, and then the other one that I know of was for the DS, Ever Oasis. Very similar in that it's okay, build the town, do a dungeon crawl.
I might have to pick up Ever Oasis. Dark Cloud, for whatever reason, I've tried it a bunch of times. It's just I can't seem to get through it no matter what I
That's
do.
because
But
it's grindy.
yeah,
And
it's
it's repetitive. Like it's basically you're climbing a tower on each map for like 20 floors. It's boring.
I love
Yeah.
the game, but it's super
a little
grindy.
too much tilted in the other direction, I think. Unlike this one, where I thought the pacing was actually pretty good in this game, honestly.
Yeah, no, like especially the sim part, like you're not on it for that long. Like we said, like 15 minutes, and then you're back, in action on the 2D side scrolling part. I think 15 minutes is like a good sweet spot.
It gives you a lot of choice. Like you can, you can just ignore trying to build up the population. You can gun straight for those monster dens, and you can be in and out of a sim in like 5 to 10 minutes. So, and there's a good amount of side-scrolling content here. There's 12 levels that are pretty decent length. It's not like, oh, there's just 4. And it's really a side piece.
All I want to say though is like a nice quality of life thing that they added in this game was the text speed. Because
Yeah.
like, oh my god, like anytime you use a spell and you gotta tell me what it does every single time with like the slow scrolling text, I was like, dude, come on, this cannot be how it is. But then you could change the text speed where it's just like instant where you go boop, 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 and done. Like you can just mash through the whole thing in like 1 second. I was like, thank God.
I didn't know about that. I just used the fast forward button every time I selected a spell on my emulator.
You might say it was unexpected. An unexpected surprise.
Completely unexpected.
And this is unexpected, but there was a boss fight, a boss rush at the end, which was... I always appreciate a boss rush. I feel like people think it's lazy, but I'm a Mega Man fan, so it's what I like. I like the end game.
Yeah, it was. I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I definitely got accustomed to the bosses a lot, and it was nice that the boss rush wasn't just okay. Here's the same bosses. They at least like boosted them up to make them a little harder. But like I got very accustomed to the action side scrolling parts and the bosses because like when I was little, like it was a shared console and I had to share it with my sister. So like it became tradition is the best way I'll say it, is that like I'd play all the action platforms and beat all the bosses and then I'd pass the controller off to her so she could do the sim stuff. And then once it came to Act 2, she'd give me the controller back. So, early co-op stuff. But yeah, I became very familiar with the bosses.
I'm quite impressed actually that you beat that. How old were you when you beat that game? Because the boss rush is actually pretty hard. Like if you're not,
I think when I beat it, I think we were. Well, I was probably 6 or 7.
That's impressive.
it was not like I got the game, I beat it like immediately. God no, that
Yeah.
it took me a long time to actually get through everything. But
And there's counting, if you count the last boss two forms as two separate bosses, there's 14 bosses in this game, which is a lot.
that's
Um,
true.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like,
like
you
the
fight,
Act 1 bosses. Yep.
yeah. So you fight one when you first land in a town, then you fight one when the town is mostly built to kind of free it of the monster's control. And I think some of those mid-level bosses, or those first act bosses, are really tough. Like there's
God.
the ant lion when you're like in the sand
Oh,
pit.
the sandworm or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
his,
yeah.
yeah, his little claws come down at you. Like it's like you can angle it so you can jump over it, but you have to work at it. Like it's
It feels
definitely
like it's
skill.
almost like pixel perfect almost.
Like
Yeah.
every
Jumping over that
boss in
stupid
this
thing.
game, almost every boss can just be hacked to death. That sandworm boss, if you're sliding down the hill, as soon as you get close enough, you just start spamming the attack button, and it stops you a pixel before you hit him, and you just beat on him. Like it was so easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
The
didn't.
main
I didn't
boss
end up
that's like
figuring that
really
out.
really hard are to zerg down, other than the final boss, the dragon and like the Lamia guy that flies mostly.
Yeah, Kalia.
Dude, no, that stupid Manticore one too, the one that's like constantly jumping like across like the platforms and stuff. I
Oh,
feel like
somebody
I can only get like 2 whacks at him at a time.
somebody didn't watch the speed run. Apparently,
Yeah,
the
he
guy
has a
jumps right at
really
it,
he
takes the
has a
first
really
hit.
like a pattern.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a pattern, but if you know which platform he's on, you know which platform he's going to go to next, so you can cheese him that way.
Yeah, I will say the bosses did not involve a lot of strategy, um, but I love the designs for most of them. Or at
I
least
mean,
a good chunk of them were nice, I should say.
it's psychological. Like there's a lot, and I mean a lot. Like if you watch like old game speed runs, like from this era, from this like this 80s to early 90s era, you realize that a lot of games give you enough HP to zerg down punch for punch bosses. Like tons of games do this. But like if you are actually trying to not get hit, I think most of the bosses in this game are pretty well designed. There are definitely some where you have no option, you just chop away. And I guess the option is there, but like I don't know, it's definitely not good design, but I think it's mostly forgivable
I
in this
I
realm.
think the issue is like
know.
most attacks in this game only take 1 bar of your health. Like if bosses were to take like, 3 every time you got hit, I think they would be significantly harder. So
True.
so then you wouldn't be able to zerg them down like that cuz they're taking more health off from you than you are to them. The only attack that I remember that actually took more than 1 health was like the laser beam from the final boss. I think that took like 3.
Should I segue into professional mode then?
Yeah, I actually was just about to bring it up. If side scrolling is your thing,
Yeah,
Actraiser's got you covered.
yeah. So something hidden in the game. Well, I say hidden. If you beat the game once, and apparently you have to have a save file, as we found out with Dawn.
I tried to get to professional mode, man. This
Yeah, I
week I
know.
beat this game 3 times, Eric. 3. I beat it once on my twice on my Retroid, wondering what my problem was, and then I beat it with you.
And still
Only I
couldn't.
didn't save the whole way through,
Yeah.
and when I reset the emulator, there was no save file and no professional mode.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's a save file thing, but if you beat the game and you like sit through all the credits and stuff, and it sits there at the end screen and you can't hit any buttons and it's just stuck there. So you go and reset your console. When you get back to the title screen, it'll give you the option of new game or continue. And then if you keep hitting down, you get a professional mode, which is a hidden like hard mode that takes out all of the simulation. There are no sim stages, and it just drops you right into Fillmore 1 at max health, but no magic. So you have no magic
Oh.
spells, no magic casts. You have 24 health and a sword. So you're going through all 12 platforming stages with your base number of lives and whatever you pick up in the platforming stages. And like most of the monsters that you're fighting take twice as much hit. So like the little goblins in Fillmore 1 that you used to just like, oh, hit, dead. Now they take 2 hits, and everything does double damage. So your
Oh,
24
boy.
health is really only 12. I can say it makes the boss rush a lot harder. There are strategic deaths to get a health refill during that boss rush.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah, no, the no spell thing. Ouch. Like
It's one of the
especially
reasons
having
my sister doesn't touch it.
yes, having aura and like some of the bosses in the boss rush mode like are so good. Like, damn, dude.
Yeah, it definitely tests your pattern learning, especially for like level 5 boss Kalia, the floating snake. You really have to learn their attack patterns and know when to attack them in order to do it correctly.
You bait the platform that falls right next to them, move out of the way, jump on that. You can get 2 slashes in, then you drop off.
Yep.
You just bait the platform again.
I did struggle with that boss until I figured that out. So the first time you fight that snake boss, the best way that I found to beat it was you run under it and then it tries to stomp on you. And the first form is so slow that you can get in like 3 or 4 whacks before you have to run away, and he starts to like do his swivel thing. And you can just rinse and repeat that. He'll try to come down at you every time you're under him, and you can get like 3 or 4 whacks in on him, and that's his loop, unfortunately for him. But the faster version will get back up before you can even hit him once and hit you in retaliation. So you have to use like the platform method. But yeah, so interesting. He was probably my favorite boss, actually, just because there was something that you had to do to accomplish it.
Yeah. I downloaded the boss with the wheel and the eye. So basically, like when the fight starts, I take the first hit obviously because he just lunges at you. But there's a point where all you have to do is just drop off the ledge, and then he just does like a certain pattern. And then basically you just have to like jump on that ledge and then jump off it at certain times, and he'll never hit you. And that's how I would kill him. And I would only take 1 damage
whacks in a cycle.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bosses where you can just understand their pattern and you just won't take damage. And then there's bosses like Minotaurus where it's just like, no, you're gonna get hit.
The ice dragon's pretty tough too, actually.
Hey, that stupid dragon. I was playing and Dan was watching me, and he did his like dive thing 4 times in a row.
Only 4?
I think Don had like 7 when I was watching him play.
Yeah, he's a prime candidate for the aura spell. Like, just get out of here. You're dragging this battle on way too long. Just delete him.
Or the stars.
Yeah.
Like Eric showed me how to do. He gets eaten alive.
Either one works. If you have stars, you wait until he's in top right corner. If you have aura, just wait for it to swoop and just damage frame through him.
Yeah, it takes half his health bar when he's swooping in on you. It's nuts.
So how did you guys find the final boss? Like, did you find it like adequate, tough? How did you feel about it?
I mean, the first form's an absolute joke, I feel like. He like, I don't know, he does like one attack, and then sometimes like if you're like standing in like a right spot, he just won't ever hit you. And like you only have to like so he'll appear once, you can literally almost kill him in that one time that he appears. And then like he appears again, then you finish him off. The second one was a little bit challenging. Especially those things that are like homing in on you. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's like really hard to hit some of those because they're like hovering like right under you, and you don't have a hitbox to hit under you, and then they just like swoop in and like hit you. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, like, but those stars can go in some spots where it's just like so annoying.
Sends little homing projectiles after you.
Yeah, I had the Starstorm ability or magic spell or whatever, and it was not good against
Same with aura.
Tiny little hitbox. It's only open sometimes.
Yeah, I tried using aura on it too, and it was just like no go. I was like, all right, we're just swording this thing.
I think he's the only boss that deals you more than 1 damage too. Like I think when he hits you, it's either 2 or 3.
Maybe one I specifically remember is the laser beam that it shoots. That does 3 to you. Yeah, and because I remember when Steve was playing, it was like chunking him. I was like, oh, we gotta try and avoid that.
Yeah, one thing I will mention about the second form of the final boss, there's that moment when you watch his health fill up and it just keeps going.
Oh yeah.
And it just like goes off the screen. You're like, oh, wait, this isn't right.
You know what would have been funny if like you hit him a few times and it just was still like full because it's like off the screen. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah, most of the boss health bars only go halfway across the screen. This one just keeps going, and your eyes are like, woo, watching it go across the screen. I got in a situation where I was crouching, and Eric was on for this, watching me.
Yeah.
And all his little projectiles that home in on you, for some reason, they stop where your head would be if you weren't crouching, and they were just hovering above me, and I was just like swinging away until he died. I think he only managed to hit me once because of the.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like they'll stay in these like awkward spots like around you before they actually like lunge in and hit you.
Well, these ones were not lunging. I was there for a long time.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Don
it
found
was
some
just
magic
some
pixel.
cheese.
Like some magic pixel where they would not come closer, but they weren't close enough to hit him. But he was still in a good spot to hit the boss.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hilarious. All right, I think we've done this game for about an hour-ish, which honestly is more meat on the bone than I thought we were going to get out of it. But I want to ask Eric before he goes off. Eric, what do you feel like the chances are of this game winning a prize in the Cable Club League?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I'm early in the roster, so I've got a lot of games following after me. But even then, there's some strong competitions beforehand. So I mean, top prize probably not. Is it good for like middle of the pack stuff? Sure. I mean, it really depends on how you guys feel about it being such a niche conglomeration of categories and genres, I guess.
I think it'll be interesting. I feel like we designed these categories because I wanted picks like this sometimes, and I wanted to be able to award picks like this. I didn't want just like a whole year of like the best games that I've played 1,000 times. Like this is cool. Thank you for bringing this one.
Oh, if you want weird games, just come see me. I've got like a whole bucket list.
I just might.
My heart can only take so much.
How do you guys feel about a collectathon that requires 100% completion to get to the final boss?
Oh, really?
It depends on how well the game is designed.
I like when there's a secret boss at the end of that. Like you can beat the game, but if you want to fight the last boss, you got to do the collectathon.
I mean, I'm a collectathon kind of guy. Like I Banjo-Kazooie, and I was 102% of Donkey Kong 64 and all the games. Like I like collectathons.
Yeah, maybe that's a game for another day.
Indeed. All right, we're going to say goodbye to Eric, and we are going to get into our review. Eric, thank you so much for coming on.
Great to be here.
Looking forward to having you on again sometime.
Does he have any plugs, if any?
No plugs for me. I have a dead YouTube channel with some old Let's Plays. I used to stream on Twitch, but not so much anymore because time. So I'm just around on the Discord with some weird tastes in games. So if you want some recommendations, come chat me up.
Good stuff.
All right, fellas, you ready to get to our break and our plugs and then our review?
All right. Pleasure to have you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
So if you are still listening to us at this point, you must kind of like what you're hearing. So why don't you try subscribing? It's free for you. It means the world to us. You could also leave a like on this video if you're watching us on YouTube, or comment to us and tell us why we're wrong about everything.
We're never
or just
wrong.
come chum it up in our Discord, which you can get to in the link in the show notes here, or whatever listening platform you are on. You could also go over to our website and you can actually join the Discord from there if you can't find it in the show notes. We are also open to you emailing us at thecableclubpodcast@gmail.com. If you're interested in joining the league or just hanging out with us or just talking or leaving comments on the video, we'll take all of it. It's good stuff. And we really, really appreciate our community who supported us thus far. We're really happy to have you guys. And, I especially think this week we had good, just activity in our Discord, people talking about this and that. Really brings the warm and fuzzies. It's a good time. But we're here to review Actraiser, to give our impressions of it, cover anything we didn't cover with Eric in terms of our opinions. And so, I don't know, I just want to say that, I think this game is, I think it's a little bit primitive in its design. I kind of wish that it had a little bit more of what it does. Like that's my general consensus on this game. I wanted more of what it does because I think what it does is so cool. But unfortunately, it being the first of its kind and maybe the last of its kind, arguably, because I don't know if I'd wholeheartedly agree that Dark Cloud is like, the iteration that we all deserve of this title. But who knows? Maybe an indie studio will see this episode, look at this game, and be like, "I'm going to give them what they want and make an awesome, indie game that does this exact same thing, but better." That's kind of how I feel about it. It's where I land.
Yeah, I kind of echo a lot of that. I would say that overall, I feel like the side-scrolling portions of the game were medium. The sim part was medium, and the music was there were a couple okay songs, and then a lot of not so great songs. But I think the best place for this game and its time was its visuals. I think it did a pretty good job. You like in the levels, for early Super Nintendo, it looked good, and the top-down sim, looked as good, if not better, than like a Final Fantasy overworld map. Like what you would expect. It looked pretty good.
True, I hadn't actually thought about comparing it to like an overworld map of an RPG. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, you're right. It actually did look really good.
Yeah, I feel like it was better in some ways because
Yeah.
I feel like the way that they utilized mode 7, like with the trees, it wasn't like a top down view of like trees. It was like actual like you were looking at it from the side, but it conveyed it a lot better because it actually looked like trees and buildings and stuff like that. So I mean, if you're gonna do mode 7, I think that's like a better direction to go with it. Because a lot of times with like the Final Fantasy games, it like, especially like when you're on the airship, it just looks like a pixelated mess because you just it's like a top-down view looking down on it, and sometimes it just
I
doesn't
don't have
jive
any
well.
problems with the visual presentation of the game. It was good.
Yeah,
I like that moment when you go to be the master and go fight a monster, and it's like that moment where you're coming down from the sky pyramid and it's swirling around and going in. That moment is like Super Nintendo is hell. It's like
yeah.
the most Super Nintendo thing I think I've ever seen.
You know what? I was actually surprised at too, where it's like when you go up in the sky on your like little like floating island or whatnot, it actually has your progression on the map where
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
built it and stuff, which I thought was pretty neat. I didn't know that like that kind of technology existed back then. Because it was like if you actually go on like say like for example Bloodpool, if you only built on half the map, it will actually show it on that like high up view, which I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it really did feel like in this world what you do matters, which I think is really neat. And that's just one single touch, right? But the other touch is that you upgrade yourself further by going the extra mile for the communities that you end up building up. And again, this is like where I start to bleed into the potential of it, because I feel like there could have been so much more that was done with this, right? I'm trying to think of games that came out around this time that were doing so much more. Like when did Zelda: A Link to the Past come out?
Was that 93?
91.
Was it 90? Was it that old?
I think so.
Yeah, so it would have been right around this era, but like look at the amount of like depth and content in that game, right? Like this game was just missing a little bit of that depth.
Yeah,
I think.
I feel like the especially like the side scrolling parts could have been a little better. Maybe not.
This game is 20 days older than A Link to the Past in North America.
Oh, is it?
Wow.
Yeah, I felt like they could have expanded on the like at least like the 2D parts. Like I wish like you got like stronger equipment and stuff like that, so it felt like you were progressing your character rather than just strict like level ups through your population.
Yeah, you get like the magic spell amounts, the HP up, and the spells themselves are like the big upgrades you get.
Like a direction I felt like that would have been cool is like some of the areas that you see on the map, like like Teddy, for example, like is going through the cave or whatnot. Like why can't we go in that cave? Or like the random temples that are littered throughout some of the towns. Like why can't we go in this temple and explore it? You know, that's like stuff I wanted to see in like, you know, sequels and stuff. But
stuff I did like was like random stuff happening, right? Like plagues, or there was like the one town that decided to fight, like have
They
conflict.
needed music.
Yeah, and like, but like I was like trying to solve their problem because it shows you which houses are like the problem people. And like I'm sitting there talking, I'm trying to figure it out, trying to get them to build again. So I just go and lightning strike all the houses that are the problem, and I'm like, "Here you go, just end the war decisively." Aren't you guys happy now? No, it's still weren't happy. You gotta get the music going.
Yeah, some of the stuff was a little bit like obscure. Wasn't sure, but you know, once you get there and you see it, then you know what it's for. But you know, a lot of times you fix all their problems and then you go to leave and they're like, "Hey, we have another problem."
unexpectedly.
You're like, "Ah, well, I don't have what you need. Give me some time. Go to
Yeah.
the next area."
But I think that stuff's good though, because again, that would have been cool to have more of that stuff for more upgrades, you know. So I don't know. I think it did a lot of things right. I think this is a really cool blueprint, and I'm really disappointed. Did you guys look at Actraiser 2 at all? Did you
Yeah.
look at any of that?
Yeah, I did. You're like a dude
I
with
did
some
not.
wings instead of like a dude in armor.
Yeah, you're still the master, but you're basically naked.
Yeah.
You're wearing like a kitchen towel, and you have wings, but you're so jacked
Altered Beast.
that like your guy's like the character that like ate Pit from from Kid
Protein.
Icarus for protein. Like, but he hits like, you know, he tickles enemies with his sword, because the enemies in that game take like 4 or 5 hits, like all of them. Really annoying damage sponges.
Yeah.
And you know, when you start to get into that space of side scrollers, well, now you have a problem, because now you're competing with games like Castlevania 4, right? And you have to live up to that. And if you don't live up to that, then nobody's going to remember it. And I feel like that's what befell this series.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, they didn't have like a crystal ball. Like back then, you know, platformers were the fad, so that's probably why they went that route. They knew Mario was doing good and stuff, but they didn't
Compete
know
with
that they
Mega
were going to be a
Man
dime a
X and-
dozen. So like, you know, if they stayed the path, they could have, you know, carved out their own genre, so to speak. But unfortunately, it didn't go that way.
Or even made a good platformer, because it's not a good platformer.
Yeah.
Like, it's, yeah. So I don't know. Kind of an interesting decision there. My understanding is people that, you know, like critics kind of are mixed and kind of like the second one more. I don't know. I didn't really find the first one to be cryptic or anything. It was just kind of a walk in the park,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Same.
Those are my final thoughts. You guys have anything else to add?
Yeah, I just wish they expanded on the series. But that's pretty much it. I thought they had a good idea. It's unfortunate that, you know, they went 2D and eventually that was the end.
Yeah, unfortunately, that makes this feel almost half baked. You know.
What could have?
Yeah. Indie Studios, pick it up. Come on. Give us the Actraiser we deserve. Give us the Mega Man X7 we deserve too.
Yeah, for real.
All right, we ready to rate this thing?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so if this is your first League episode, then let me tell you the rules real fast. So, what we have here is a website called Tier Maker making a tier list, but this game this year is not a tier list in the traditional sense. These are all cups. They're all running their own competition, basically. And every time we reach a divisor of, or a number of games that can be divided by 5, we create a new cup. We're going to play 25 games this year, and each cup is going to have 5 games in it. So when a new game comes in, it can either go to the top cup, or it can get dropped in at a lower level, but that means that we have to push games up. And you'll see as the year goes on and we get more and more cups, we'll have to do a lot of shifting around. Creates a little bit of excitement there. So in our lowest cup, Apricorn, right now we have Donkey Kong Country 2, Pokemon Gold, Silver, Crystal, The Legend of Dragoon, The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages, and JJ Squawkers. And in our Pokeball Cup, which is currently our highest cup because we're only up to Game 8, we have Paper Mario, and we have Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So, fellas, let me ask you. Is Actraiser Pokeball Cup material?
Not quite.
No.
All right. So I would agree out of these titles. So we're going to put it down in Apricorn. And just for all of you watching, it's not a tier list. So from left to right is not necessarily the order in which we favor the games. But I feel like it's getting kind of hard to pick two games to vote up from Apricorn. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
Yeah, there's a few I can still bump up, but yeah, it's getting thin.
And one rule we've instituted for ourselves is that we can't vote for our own games. Who wants to kick us off? Who wants to give us which one they think should move up?
Sure. So we've been picking two games lately, and we try to find the overlap. So my first pick in Apricorn to go up is going to be The Legend of Dragoon. And my second one that would go up would probably be Donkey Kong Country 2.
For me, it is probably either Zelda Oracle of Ages, or I would say probably Pokemon Gold or Silver.
Really?
Not being able to pick mine.
Over
Yeah.
over Legend of Dragoon, huh?
For me, yeah.
I think it's just because I've played Pokemon Gold and Silver so many times. It's just like ambiguous with breathing.
And I think it's that I've played so many JRPGs on the PlayStation that Legend of Dragoon doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, he doesn't have that nostalgic factor, too, that we have.
Yeah, true. I'm like super blind to it. God, like I know it's not the last time I'm gonna vote, and like my bias favor for Pokemon Gold and Silver is like working against me because I've played it so much that I don't want to play it again. Basically, like it's not a bad game. It's a very good game. I've just gotten everything that I want out of it out of life. Like so,
So
if I never play it again until I die, it's fine.
It deserves to go up because you played it so many times.
I know there is that end of it, but then like adult me is like, do you still enjoy it? And I'm like, not really. So like,
But which game out of these did you have the most fun playing for the podcast?
right, like I had a ton of fun playing Donkey Kong Country and Zelda Oracle of Ages, both of them. So I think those are going to have to be my picks. But I really, really feel like Legend of Dragoon needs to move up too. But I just like out of the most fun that I had, yeah, I'm going to say it's those two.
Okay. So Donkey Kong's got the overlap, it seems like.
Nobody else picked Oracle of Ages?
I picked Oracle of Ages and Pokemon.
Was it your first or so Oracle of Ages was your first pick?
Yeah, because we can't pick our own game. Yeah, Oracle of Ages is it was a surprising little Game Boy Color title. Even though I've played like all the Zelda games.
So wait, did we all three pick Donkey Kong Country? Did
I can't pick it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
this is a game. Yeah, me and you overlapped on it, Don.
I don't know how to break this tie.
Well,
What, did we overlap on another game? I know we did with Donkey Kong. What other game?
There's
Steve and
two
I
people-
overlapped on Zelda.
Oh,
So Steve can't break the tie because Steve's game is Donkey Kong Country 2. So therefore, I think it has to go to Zelda for now. Is that fair?
yeah, I don't know what to do if we have two overlaps.
Or-
Maybe that's something we can rectify in future episodes.
So wait, Dan, what were your picks?
Uh,
Donkey Kong Country 2 and Legend of Dragoon?
Yeah,
Was Donkey Kong Country 2 your first pick?
it was Legend of Dragoon was my first pick.
Okay. All right, let's talk this out.
So wait,
All right.
your first pick is priority over your second pick?
Not necessarily. I guess that's up to you. So if you had to order them, which one would you put up first?
It would probably be Legend of Dragoon if I couldn't pick Pokemon. So
Okay. All right. So then I think what we need to do, I think we just put up the only game that doesn't belong to one of us that had overlap. This is a really odd tie where we somehow all tied in opposite directions. Like this is a very uncommon situation. Do we all pick a third game? Because then I would pick Legend of Dragoon as my third game.
mine would be Ages.
So that gives you the same 3 picks as me, Dan.
My third would be Legend of Dragoon. I can't pick my own, and I like Legend of Dragoon more than JJ Squawkers and Actraiser.
So Legend of Dragoon and Zelda got 3 votes each. Donkey Kong got 2. Steve
Yeah,
can't pick
because
his own.
it can't get 3.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So what it if now why don't we break it down like this? Between Legend of Dragoon and Ages, which of the three of us we would like to see go up? Mine would be Dragoon.
Ages.
Ages.
So there we go.
All right. Fair's fair. There's still so much time left. There's no way Donkey Kong Country 2 sits in Apricorn. It's just we got this weird rule about voting for our own games. So maybe we'll have to rectify that for next year. But anyway, this is our current cup list. So up in the Pokeball Cup is Paper Mario, Street Fighter Third Strike, Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages. Down in the Apricorn tier, we have Donkey Kong Country 2, Pokemon Gold, Silver, Crystal, Legend of Dragoon, JJ Squawkers, and Actraiser. And that is our competition so far. So we are going to set Actraiser aside in all of its potential unexpectedly. And the guest for our next episode is someone very near and dear to Steve's heart. Steve, who's our guest?
So on the next episode, my wife, Lady Lishi, will be coming on to the podcast, and the game she's bringing along with her is Eternal Darkness. It is a 2002 Nintendo GameCube horror/puzzle game developed by Nintendo and Silicon Knights. So find yourself a copy or find yourself a way to play it, and we'll be excited to talk about it.
This is our first, what is GameCube? Is that Gen 5 consoles? Is that it? Tell us in the comments what generation it is. It's going to be Gen 5 for this. It's our first Gen 5 game, first like GameCube, PS2, Xboxy era game. So this will be exciting to see how it stacks up against games older than it. It'll be a different vibe for sure. Come hang out in our Discord and play some Eternal Darkness with us, and come back and see us in 2 weeks where we take it to the league and see how it fares. But for now, game over, fellas?
Game over.
Game over.